Well, afternoon, folks. Coming to you partway through the day here now. Believe it or not, I've already filmed this once today. At least the intro to this. Ended up having an SD file get corrupted on the camera this morning, which then threw everything into a mess. I ended up losing like 3 days worth of footage and a couple videos worth of stuff. So, apologize for that. There's some stuff you guys won't get to see. But, anywho's, so today's project. We, got two of these 1840 skid steers. This is the oldest one. This is down here at the main dairy. And this machine here, we use for all sorts of stuff, you know, getting feed out of the ag bags, manure, dirt, stone, you name it, it gets used for everything. Well, one of its biggest jobs it has, obviously, is manure handling. Well, what do you get with that? Well, you get stuff packed in all around down in the undercarriage of this machine. You do your best you can to clean it up, but sometimes things get missed. Or just age too. This machine I think is like a 1990. I think this is one of the first 1840s they started making, I think, if I remember my numbers correctly. But anyways, we're putting sawdust in with this thing on Friday. This is now Monday. And Friday we were putting sawdust in. Dad got done putting sawdust in the barn. I was still scraping. And he started shoveling sawdust. Well, anyways, as I was driving by with the scrape tractor, I was watching this machine. A little red puddle started to develop underneath it, and I knew what that was. This isn't a car with an automatic transmission, so it doesn't have ATF in it. I knew that was going to be red dyed off-road diesel fuel. And yeah, there was obviously a fuel leak, and so didn't have time to address it that day. We just put this little bucket here that's sitting under it right now underneath it to catch anything that would, you know, drain out of it and, you know, keep it from getting into the ground. But now today is the day that I'm going to address that. Pulled it in here into the shop first thing after morning chores here. I've got a heater in here. It's actually running back there. It's pretty nice in here. It's 60 degrees in here. It's pretty nice compared to outside. I think right now it's about 30 degrees, and this is probably 2 in the afternoon now, so it was a little bit colder this morning. But I have a little tiny electric fuel pump here that I bought a couple years back. We had a 1466 with a return line to the tank that was leaking, and I used that because naturally you always find a fuel leak after everything's completely full. So I bought that thing to drain that tank so I could fix that leak. Well, I'm glad I bought it because I ended up having to drain that tank 2 more times. Don't know why, but just whatever was seating in the seat of that return line was just not happy. I mean, I tightened the living crap out of it 3 times, but regardless. Anyways, so I bought this fuel pump for that. Well, I got to use it again today because this thing was completely plumb chuck full, because naturally, Friday morning we topped this girl off before we did sawdust, so it was completely full. So I stuck the old clickety-clack annoying thing in there, and I have another side of this that has I actually ended up shoving a copper line up inside of so it's straight. Because naturally, if you put a fuel line down in the tank, it kind of wants to float. You know, it's buoyant, it's rubber. So I put a steel line, or a copper line, sorry, inside of it to keep it straight so I could shove it all the way down the bottom corner of this tank. Sucked out as much as I could, and then proceeded to take the wheel off so I could get access in here, because the general area where we think it's leaking is here, and you can actually see it now. Because right before lunch, the last thing I did and the last thing I filmed was using this impact here, and that obviously taking that tire off. And that's when the weird beep occurred, and so I lost everything. But anyways, we're going to clean this up now. You can kind of see this wet spot right here, and judging from the surface of the material, you can see that there's obviously some rust shale on here, and it is obviously made its way into the tank and separated out. And so this is now no longer a sealable surface. I'm going to clean this up best I can, wire wheel it, and then I am probably going to plate this with steel and weld it and try to get this thing to not be a problem again. You can use epoxies and stuff like that to seal something like this. That's kind of a short-term solution, and I'm not planning on getting rid of this machine anytime soon. It's paid for. It works nicely. It fits in our barns very well because we have, well, older barns, so you have small doorways and low ceilings and stuff like that, so you need a machine of this size to fit in there. New machines are generally bulkier. They're wider, taller, and they don't work well in old barns. So these 1840s for us, they work pretty nice. So we're gonna get this old girl cleaned up and start fabricating a patch because it obviously, as you can see, is leaking. This is a fuel transfer tank here. We have that pump that fuel into, and once we're done, we'll put it back. But yeah, obviously this is a problem. So we're going to address that right now. Too cold outside right now to use a pressure washer. I would, all I'd manage to do is make a nice film of ice on the ground that's hard to see, and probably end up causing somebody to fall flat on their face. So I just gonna have to deal a little bit of dirt here. It's not a big deal. If it was springtime or summer, I'd probably roll this thing outside and get the pressure washer and clean this up real nice. So we'll just scrape it off by hand. Probably leave some of this dirt on here until I'm done working, and then I'll clean that off, at least over here on the spindle, because there's a huge mess there, and I really don't feel like laying in that to fix this. So what I'm doing now is just taking a putty knife to scrape any of the bulk of the dirt off of here. We're going to end up using probably going to investigate this first with a wire brush, because that's a little bit less invasive than a grinder. To see how big of a mess I'm really going to get into, I'm thinking I'm going to just have to take a piece of plate and take a piece of cardboard, and I'll make a template here. But we're probably going to end up using a plasma cutter to make ourselves a nice patch here, because this is pitted up to here. I mean, not near as bad as down here, but starting to pit there too. So I think I'm going to seal this up, this whole corner. That way I don't have to deal with this again. I think that's okay. I just think that's not through there, but there must be something right here. Oh yeah, that right there. Yeah, buddy. Man, that's thin. Wow. Yeah, well, that's gonna be fun. Maybe if maybe I could burn the heat in that bottom corner, maybe. God, you hit that with, man, that's gonna knock a hole right in that. There apparently is some residual fuel in here. There is actually a drain. You can kind of see the bung to it right there. I briefly attempted to just get that loose. It is beyond seized. This machine is now soaked in diesel fuel and everything. So I used the little mini torch there for just a second, but I was a bit nervous. I'm on my own right now. Dad's actually in the barn doing chores. You might be able to hear the silent loader run from here. I'm not sure, but I am really tempted to take a drill bit and put a hole in that corner. Get every little bit of fuel out, because I don't want to weld on a tank that has fuel in it. Okay. See if that fits. Let me take more off the bottom. Well, I got my piece marked out here. Made a cardboard template. And this piece fits in this kind of, I don't know if you want to call this an inner fender well or what, but fits down in here like so. That's going to plate clear from the bottom all the way up here about 14 inches. The really heavy pitted stuff is down here in the bottom, but there is some pitting right here. And for the sake of never having to mess with this again, I'm just going to plate this whole corner here. I left it wide enough so I can weld right here on the end of this. That way, if this is thin, I don't have to worry too much about putting the heat into that and burning through that. Same in this corner. I can push the heat kind of into these corners to kind of, heat soak that instead of having to put it all into the tank. This bottom edge will be fun to weld because that's thin, but it is what it is. We're just going to have to turn her down and try to keep from blowing a hole in it. And once we're all said and done, we'll pressurize the tank, get some soap and water, and make sure we don't have any leaks. But got it marked out on this piece of scrap steel. This was, I guess, kind of a safety cage, if you will, for the top of our TMR mixer we have. We put that in a building with a low headroom, so we couldn't have this on, and we also run baled hand to the top of our mixer, so we got a platform up there to keep anybody from getting into it. But this is the old safety sealed. It's blue. I'll probably paint it something other than blue because, yeah, blue and case don't go together. So, not New Holland. Anyway, so we'll blow this out here with the old death wheel and start stitching this thing in. Can you do something with this? Yeah. How much you want hanging down under?
If you had an eighth of an inch and you have something to weld to, is what I was thinking. You know what I mean? That took her back against.
Well, got that welded in. I'm not a, I guess, professional welder, or certified welder, you could say. I'm a farmer welder. So there might be some big welds here and there that didn't need to be that big, but I'd prefer there to be some metal there instead of a leak. So I originally, when I cleaned this all off, there's obviously a spot leaking. I tried to drill a hole right where that was, and then I put another hole up top, a little, just right like a ½ inch above that, to try to pressurize the tank a little bit. There was actually like some algae and sediment and stuff in the bottom of this tank that I wanted to get cleaned out of there, so I pressurized it to try to get rid of that stuff and clean it up some. But it's all welded now. I don't think I see anything that's gonna leak. I mean, I run the flap sander on this side to try to make it a little prettier because it's, you know, exposed, but I think it'll be okay. The hardest welds were underneath, where that piece I folded up underneath. You know, that wasn't real hard, or this one wasn't real hard. It, as long as I had a good arc, it was okay. But we're cleaning up now. Gonna spritz some paint on that, and then this other side, Dad actually was just using a little wire brush on to clean up this one back in here. But you can see that's in much better shape. Let me get you a light in here. That's in much better shape down in there than what this other side was.
I think it's got road salt on over here.
Yeah.
Driving uptown years ago to do that lady's driveway, because the center of your road is sloppy, you know.
Yeah.
So that got it started. I think that salt underneath that manure
Probably.
trapped in there.
But we're gonna get it painted up and start reassembling.
One more.
Well, I mean, you can put it all the way on the floor, I guess. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
How much you want in it?
There.
Well, you can't see that low, so.
That should be pretty close there. Well, that thing sure don't sound very healthy.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it acts like it's dying or something.
It is.
Most of those things, unless you're really drawing heavy on the high charge side, don't pull like that.
Well, put a couple gallon in it here with our fuel transfer barrel. We're gonna let her sit here a minute and make sure we don't see anything. I mean, in all reality, I welded the hole shut and then I put a patch over it, so I really...
Should be 2-ply.
Yeah, we should be double protected, but guess we'll sit here for a minute and see what it does. Fuel is pretty thin. You'll find a leak pretty fast if you have one. Well, there's no drips. That's good. Finish packing up here and we're gonna go put this thing away.